Hey guys, welcome to our first builder stream. It's going to be a lot of fun, and really hope you guys enjoy this as much as I think you will. Today's stream is going to be probably about like 50% building, and the other half I'm going to just spend talking about like the purpose of these streams and what we hope to accomplish with them, and kind of like what sorts of things we're going to be building, how we're going to be running these streams. And yeah, future ones, we'll be doing these all the time. So future ones will be probably like 90% building. But yeah, I came up with this idea because, I think there is a bit of a disconnect. Everybody knows that, you can build with AI and, all the great things that you can build with AI. And now that I've been playing around with it for, over a year now, I've really gotten the whole, I guess, the way of doing it and like, how to start and, just I've seen like, a lot of different approaches and what works best. And, I think that information is going to be really useful to some people in our community. But I think equally important is that we're going to be able to use this content to raise awareness for the projects, because this content we're going to be able to post on YouTube with, YouTube shorts and, specific YouTube videos that are going to talk about, how to come up with new ideas for something to build, how to go from idea to fully deployed DApp in an hour or 2 hours or whatever it might take. So I think, we're going to be able to build a lot of really cool stuff together. And yeah, so we're going to get tons of new utilities for the projects and lots of great content. And, I'm not sure how much of an impact that's going to have in the first week, but I know that if we do these regularly, if we're doing 2 to 3 of these every week and we keep building new great utilities for the projects, and not only that, but we're going to get a lot of new awareness from being able to share our content on X and share it on YouTube, and we'll have that YouTube algorithm kicking. And anyone that wants to learn how to build with AI, they're going to be likely to stumble upon our content in the future once we've built up a little bit of content, and they're going to be seeing Blue and Book mentioned throughout all these streams where they're learning, and it's going to be genuinely valuable content for the guys that are watching those videos. So. Yeah, I think this is a great idea, and I honestly don't think that I think that this is almost guaranteed to to work and do wonders for both projects as long as we're consistent with it, and I definitely plan on being consistent. So yeah, let's see who's in the stream. Let's I want to have these be as interactive as possible. For today's build, we've already had a couple of good ideas shared in the Telegram, but I do want to discuss them on the stream. So we'll figure out what to build there. As you guys can see, I've got a Claude, just regular Claude opened up there. One thing that's going to be a little bit of work at first is I'm going to have to switch between different screens, and there's not like a super quick way to do that with StreamYard that I'm using. So I'll probably actually do a little bit of a different setup next time, just to make it a little bit easier to show you guys like numerous things at once, like to be able to show you guys like the AI prompts and also the editor, and then also like the a browser preview type stuff. So I'll figure something better out for that in the future. But for now, you'll have to just bear with me while I'm switching between showing you guys different things. So let me just go over my notes here and see what I've covered so far. Yeah, so all right, I think we're ready to jump right into it. So in terms of like what we're going to be building, really it's wide open. We can pretty much build anything. I want to really build utilities for Book and for Blue. There's a lot of different ways we can do that. We can build stuff. I mean, if it's something that we're building that's a new token, we can pair it with Blue or Book. So, I mean, that's probably not the primary thing I want to build, just because, I mean, we already have quite a few tokens in the ecosystem. But I mean, if there's a good enough idea that involves a token, we can definitely pair that up with Blue and or Book. Any utility that requires a token, which is definitely stuff that we can build, we can use the Blue Book LP as the token for that utility, and with friendly like Zap tools, and that way we can kind of benefit both projects with any of those utilities that we build. Hey Scott, what's going on, buddy? Glad you can make it. Yeah, thanks for showing up, man. No, I honestly think that these the price action's not showing it on Blue. I'm not sure why it's facing such a big sell-off right now, but I'm super confident that if we do these consistently, for one, the utility alone is likely to really push things in the right direction. But I think the extra awareness that we're going to get just from so many new people seeing the projects by creating great content it's it's just a matter of time until everything starts really taking off with this content plan. So super pumped about it. But yeah, so one of the ideas that was mentioned in the Telegram, it was something about maybe having a system where people could vote on what utilities we're going to build. And it was first mentioned that why don't we make a voting system where you can vote with GBlue? And I think that's a great idea, but I think we need to also incorporate book and some of the book assets in that system as well. So I think that'd be a pretty cool build to start with. So basically I'm thinking it could be, and again, this is an idea. If you guys have any other ideas for what to build for our very first build, I'm definitely all ears. But yeah, so the idea that was proposed is basically a system where I guess you would connect your wallet to it, and you would have voting power depending on like what tokens you're holding, or like if you're holding GBlue, SBlue, or if you're holding book, or maybe if you have a Trove open. And from there, we could basically assign points to a user based on their positions. And then what we could do is we could, basically put a bunch of different ideas into the system, and then everybody could just go on and vote for, which idea they want to see built. And then we could actually, kind of make this something that we use at the beginning of every stream, just to, kind of throw a couple ideas in there and have everybody vote. Or maybe we could set up the votes at the end of one stream, and then, we vote between that time and then when the next stream starts. And then we'll just build whatever wins the vote. So, yeah, I mean, if you guys are cool with that, I think that's probably a pretty good thing to start with. So, and also, I mean, I want to build like 100% with AI, just to show that, people that have never coded before, they can do this too. So I'm going to go out of my way to make sure I'm not doing any manual coding. I'm going to fully embrace the vibes and let AI code everything. I mean, we'll be reviewing the code a little bit, and I can definitely answer questions that you guys have about the code. But just to make sure that anybody could follow along and anybody could build whatever they could imagine, we're going to be using AI exclusively. We're not going to be touching any of the code. So what do you guys think about building a little voting system? You guys are being shy in the chat today. All right, we got a comment here. Let's build a simple prediction market for charts, and the fees generated can be used to buy back book and burn them. I mean, that's an idea that we can vote on. Prediction markets, I mean, I want to, it's something that we could build. That's a more advanced thing, that probably not the best thing to start with, but definitely something that we could vote on in the future. Yeah, I think, go ahead. Okay. Awesome. So actually, I guess this being our first session, we should start small with the voting system. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So I guess since this is our first building stream, I should talk a little bit about like what tools you might need to get started, or like how to set up like your development environment. You really don't need much to get going. I think like pretty much I might be using some paid tools while we're doing this, but there's going to be free versions of everything that I'm using. I just happen to have subscriptions to all the stuff that I use regularly. So I'm actually, so for the actual coding that we're going to be doing, I'll let you guys actually decide which system we're going to use, because I mean the two that I prefer using are both pretty neck and neck in terms of their performance. So actually, I guess let's just jump right into the editor. I'm not sure, because so what I have open right now is just the regular like Claude, kind of like the exact same as like ChatGPT. If you were like looking to like kind of come up with ideas, or you wanted to just figure out or fine tune an idea, this is like a great place to start for that. Actually, why don't we just do that before I switch to the editor? So I'll show you guys, like, so typically I would do this if I had a bit of a more intricate idea. This idea is like, it's not too complex, so I probably don't need to start with this step, but let's do this anyways. Well, I got a good question here. What language are you going to use? So I think this is something where, because we're going to let AI do all the coding, I think like typically best practices here would be like to basically almost let the AI decide what language to use to a certain extent. Although because we're building utilities for crypto projects, I mean, the languages that we're going to use are kind of already decided for us. So like any smart contract stuff, we're going to be using Solidity. And then any like web-based stuff to interact with the smart contract, I mean, we don't really have a choice. We're going to be using JavaScript and TypeScript, which I think are, I think those are great languages to use anyways, because, as you guys probably know, like AI is trained off of publicly accessible data, and there's so much data out there that's, JavaScript projects and TypeScript projects. So, I mean, while AI can really excel in most programming languages, it does exceptionally well with JavaScript and TypeScript. So that kind of fits really well with the kind of stuff we're going to be building. So so what I want to do here is I want to make a plan, and what I want to do is I want it to create me a file that I'm going to use, and I'm just going to drop this right into our project after, so that AI kind of knows what we want to build. So let's get a prompt going here. So if you guys have any ideas for this that you want me to potentially include in the prompt, feel free to drop it in. So basically what we're going to be doing right now, and again, this is kind of an unnecessary step for something as simple as what we're building, but just to show you guys the process of what I would do with like a more complex idea. So let's say, write me a planning document in Markdown format. The format's not really too important, but it's what I'm used to using. Actually, let me write me a planning document in Markdown format to describe a voting. My mic's in the way. To describe a voting system where community members from multiple projects will. Should probably put the word crypto in there somewhere. Crypto voting system where community members from multiple projects will use their positions, which we will check smart contracts for, to vote for ideas that we will build. So let's put a little bit more detail. So we will create. So I'm kind of trying to do this like in a way that other people could do it. I don't want to like put too much domain knowledge in there, I guess, because I mean that's something that other people might not have. But okay, let's just say we will need to check the balances of 3 different tokens for one project, and for the other project we will need to check a couple token balances and check participation in a few other ecosystem smart contracts. We will need to assign points for specific balances. So some balances will carry more weight than others. And what else do we need? So basically once we know a user's points, there will be an admin function to add voting options, and then users will be able to vote on their favorite idea. And once voting ends, we will have a winner based on how many points the idea got. Yeah, so I'm on the fence about doing this just because this is not really necessary for something as simple as what we're building. Usually, like, because I already kind of know exactly what we want to build. Usually I would use this more if like I had a rough idea and like I didn't know how to go about doing it, or like what the ideal way to do it was. But this I already have like a super strong idea of like exactly how it should work. So it's not really the best use of this, but let's just see what it comes up with. So we're going to let that go, and then we're going to jump into the code editor right after. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to download this document, and I'm just going to drop this into the code editor just so it kind of has a general idea of what we're going to be building. So I'm just reviewing this real quick. Key stakeholders, technical requirements, functional requirements. To be honest, I don't love this. I'm just gonna close this out. We're just gonna jump into the editor. This is going like it's building extra. It's making a bunch of assumptions that aren't really true, and it's sorry, this wasn't the best way to start this one. But let me jump right into the editor, and we'll start playing around there. All right. So what we got here is we got just cursor opened up. Just to give you guys a bit of insight into like my development environment, I'm on Windows right now, although I really don't like programming on Windows. So what I'm actually doing is I'm using something called WSL, which lets me use Linux within Windows. Whenever I'm programming, I'm always using WSL, or I'm using an actual Mac, which the Macs, for those that aren't familiar, it's like based on Unix, which is kind of like Linux. So the reason that I do that, I mean, there's a couple of reasons why I do that, but one of the big ones is when you deploy stuff live, it's basically always getting deployed to like a Linux type environment. So when you code in Linux, you're basically coding in a very similar environment to where you're going to be deploying, which basically it gives you a very consistent experience between like where you're building and where you're deploying. If you're building in Windows and you go to deploy to production, which is a Linux server, usually it would be fine, but there are some differences between Windows and Linux. And like one of my favorite ones to always bring up whenever I'm talking about this is that Linux is case sensitive. So if I if I make it direct, I don't know, hopefully you guys can see that, maybe not. There we go. In Windows, this is the same as this, right? In Windows, there's no difference between those two, but in Linux, those are two separate things, right? Like the capitalization makes a difference. So if you don't use capitalization consistently in your project, on Windows, it could still work because it doesn't care about the capitalization, but on Linux, it's not gonna work. It's gonna cause a problem. So I mean, that's just one example, but there's a lot of other reasons why I just like to code in the same environment that I'm going to be deploying to. And WSL is like super simple to set up. We could talk about that on another stream if you guys are interested in that or have any questions about that. But let's actually just make a directory that we're going to use for all of our stuff. So let's call this building live. So let's get in there. Now let's make our first project. So actually, what we're going to do for this is I'm going to show you guys something. I'm going to show you guys that so with AI, you could build directly from scratch. However, since we're building like a blockchain project where, we know that we're going to be using Solidity for the smart contract, we know that we're going to be using a front end so that people can interact with it. There's an easier way to get started with that kind of setup. So I'm just going to actually search for something real quick in my browser. Sorry, I know you guys can't see this, but I'm going to use something called Scaffold ETH2. And once you guys see this, you guys are going to recognize it because I always use this to start. I don't always use it, but I typically use this to start projects. So basically, I just went to the Scaffold ETH website and I just searched right on the homepage. It shows I guess I should probably show you guys. So this is Scaffold ETH2. So I'm just copying this command here just to start a new project with Scaffold ETH2. So yeah, I really got to get a better setup going to to show multiple things at once, or else I'm gonna have to keep switching. Window cursor. So now that we're back in here, I just pasted that in, and I'm just gonna give this a name. So we're gonna call it voting. So just answer yes on that. Got a question. How is the marketing going that Nick's working on? Let's keep this stream for building. We can talk about that in Telegram or in like our traditional live streams. So I picked hard hat. I like using, so basically like the question that it asked me there was which framework do we want to use for Solidity? I've been using hard hat forever, so that's what I'm going to choose. I'd probably recommend most people to choose that. I think it's a little bit simpler. So what this is going to give us is this is going to give us like a great starting point for building a Solidity project with like a front end that we can interact with it. And like as we build this, you guys are going to see like some of the big advantages of starting with something like this instead of starting from scratch. Let's actually open up this folder. Actually, I'll wait for it to finish. So there's going to be like a lot of cool like tips and tricks that you guys are going to learn like as I do this. So because obviously for the voting to work, we're going to have to interact with a bunch of different smart contracts. So I'm going to show you guys how to get all that going. So let's open this up. So it's in what we call it, building live and voting. All right. So we're in our project. You can see there's already a bunch of stuff set up for us. So it's not the simplest starter setup, just because there's two. Basically, this is a mono repo with two packages, right? So you got hard hat, which is going to be all of our contract related stuff, and we have Next.js, which is going to be our front end. The reason why it's so cool to do it this way is that as we make stuff, as we like make changes to our contracts or create new contracts, when we build that, it's going to give Next.js everything that it needs to interact with the contracts in a really easy way. So, there's a lot of other ways to do that, but just the simplicity of this and like just having it automatically get that going every time we make changes to contracts is just super convenient. And for any of the guys that are maybe more advanced, the way that it's doing that is just with like scripts that are going to generate the files for Next.js that are basically going to make it, well, you'll see, it makes it super easy to interact with everything. So let's get started here. Do you guys have any preference? So like the two ways that I would typically go, typically what I would do for this is I would start up Claude Code. That's what I'm typically using for AI coding. But we are in Cursor browser. So, and I believe they have a free tier. So this, using the chat here to build is very, very similar, as long as you're in agent mode, which is the default now. So we could do either one. If nobody has any preference, I'll probably stick with using Claude Code. But so I'll use Claude Code unless somebody really prefers me to use this. We could even switch back and forth for different projects just to show you guys that it works, kind of either way. So with Claude Code, what I like to do to start is I like to just kind of like initiate the project. So, typically, I guess this would be used if you're starting up Claude Code into an existing project, but just because our starter kit already had enough going on, yeah, let's do it. So init basically is just going to like tell Claude like it's basically going to inspect the project and just make a file that just tells the AI like what kind of project this is, where stuff's located, stuff like that. So this, you wouldn't really do this if you were starting like a brand new project with nothing in it. But we can do it here for a couple of reasons, because like we already have like a mono repo structure. Like we basically already have these packages here. And actually, so Scaffold E2 has cursor rules, which basically would be used if we were using this chat. This chat would actually look at those cursor rules to basically know like the structure of the project. But because we're using Claude Code instead, this is actually going to check those cursor rules, and it's going to basically take that information and put it into the Claude file. So pretty much all I did here is I just ran init, which is basically, again, it's just going to analyze the code base and create a Claude file. Some of these might take a little while, although I think this one's just about done. So I'm just gonna, so it's asking me if I want to accept this change. So not only am I going to accept it, but I'm just going to tell it to allow all edits, so I don't have to keep doing this every time. So now what we've got is we've got a Claude file that basically tells the AI exactly how to interact with our project, right? So how to compile the contracts, how to deploy, how to do all that stuff. And importantly, it knows the structure, right? Like, so this is where you find all the important stuff. So that's good to go. So let's get started building. So basically, so let's just clear this. So I'm just going to basically tell it, what our starting point is and what we want to build. So currently we have a brand new scaffold ETH2 starter setup. We will use this to create a voting system for our 2 crypto project communities. We can remove the default smart contract that came with scaffold ETH2 and replace it with a voting contract. The first thing this contract needs to do is be able to calculate points for users. This will take in a user's wallet address and show a point breakdown based on various other contract info. To start, let's add the ability to check the balances of various tokens on BSC. Actually, I probably should have included something about BSC earlier. Actually, I put it at the end. To start, let's add the ability to check the balances of various tokens. We will, both projects are on BSC network, and we will also build this app for BSC. So I think that's pretty good to start. Yeah, let's just see what that can do. So because this is an agent, pretty much like I just gave it a pretty lengthy prompt just to tell it like exactly what I want to get started with. And it should have a pretty good idea of, the beginning of that. So I didn't give it any details yet. It doesn't know like what contracts to check. So let's just see how this goes. So right now it's like deleting that starter contract that this came with, which is this one. And then it's going to create a new voting system contract. I'm just going to go refill my coffee while we let this get some work done. So you can see this file already has been deleted and we got a voting system contract instead. Okay, so this is pretty cool what it's built already. So there's a couple things that I want to change in this already, but let's just we'll let it finish before we start messing with it. So basically this built something a little bit more advanced than what I want to go with. I'll just explain a little bit while this is building. So it made like a dynamic system where like an admin could add tokens anytime, but we don't really need it to be dynamic. I just want to have like a preset number of tokens. Like I want to say, okay, I want to check G blue, I want to check S blue, I want to check blue, and then I want to check book. And I don't really need the ability to add new tokens all the time or to update tokens. We can just build that all right into the contract. So, so basically what this did is it built all the stuff that we need on the contract side. And now it basically installed all the dependencies and it compiled it just to make sure like everything is going to work. I don't really care to test. Did it make a test? Oh, it actually even made a test for us. All right, let's run the test. Why not? Not that it's super important, just because we're basically going to be changing everything up right now. Need to fix the test issues. So apparently some stuff didn't work. I mean, really, this test is not too important because we're about to change up how this all works. So, but let's just let it finish anyways. Actually, one thing, you know what? I'll show you guys something. So one thing, you can interrupt this anytime you want. Like, you don't feel like you have to let it finish, because you really don't need to let it finish. Like, as soon as you see one thing that's not like the direction you want it to be going, like, you can definitely interrupt it. And I'd suggest interrupting it in cases like that. So let's give it some edits to make. So we don't need a dynamic system for tokens. We are going to only be using, let's call it 4 tokens, which we can hard code into the contract. This way we can have a nice output of the points for each user with a fixed number of possible ways to have points. So basically what I'm saying with this is, like, I want to have, again, I'm not going to be like messing with the code at all. We're going to let AI do everything. But the way that it has user points, I want something like a lot simpler than this. I don't want to have I just want this to be like, I'm going to delete this in a sec, but I just want it to be like, you know, like G blue points, right? Like, you know, S blue points, like, right? And it's just one of those for like every type of points that somebody could have. So that's what I'm looking for. I don't want anything like more advanced than that. Great work, man. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, this and the future streams are going to be a lot more exciting. Like, this one's a kind of this like a setup stream where I'm just getting used to things, and I'll have a better system in the future where I can kind of share more stuff at once and make it a little bit easier to switch back and forth. But so this way we can have a nice output of the points for each user with a fixed number of possible ways to have points. So a user should be able to connect their wallet, and our front end will query the user's points, and output will show how many points per token or per token. Yeah. I don't know if I did the best job there, but that looks like it should be okay. You know, like, the quality of your prompt is very important, but at the same time, you don't want to like kill yourself going too crazy, making like the absolute perfect prompt. Like, you could have typos in there. It's not a big deal. It'll know what you mean. You know, and I know we're going to be checking more than 4 things, but we can update that later. But just in terms of like the most simple thing, which is just like basically like checking the balance of a token, just off the top of my head, I got 4, right? I got the 3 different kinds of blue, and then we have book. But we're going to add in like troves and all kinds of other stuff after. But like for right now, like the AI doesn't know like how to check a trove, right? So I'm gonna have to give it some information about how to check that afterwards. So let's see what it's doing. Okay, so it's basically doing exactly what we asked for. So I'll just explain a couple of things while this is building. So what you see here, this interface IERC20, basically this is telling the smart contract how to interact with a different contract. So because so far we're only telling it to check balances of a couple other tokens, pretty much this is all that we need, is just these very basic functions. I mean, really, we just need this one. So basically, like when we are going to be checking stuff like troves, we're going to have to add more information up here. Well, I'll let the AI do it, but I'm not going to bother testing that. So let's just take a look at what it's built. So we have a token info struct. I'm not sure that we really need that, but user point breakdown. So we have total points, token 1 points, token 2 points. Okay. Token info for each of the tokens. Do we really need this? I think I might want to do this a little bit more manually than that, but let's see what else it's got. User point storage. Okay, I mean, we can do it this way. I think I want to just do it a little bit simpler though. So basically, like it's doing it in like a bit of a more like systematic way, like where every token is kind of equal to each other. Like they're all like a data structure that has like the token address, the project name, the symbol. We don't really need all that. Let's get AI to make it a little bit simpler. Instead of using the data, so it's kind of funny that we're doing this because I'm kind of like I'm kind of taking it from like a kind of a bit of a more proper way of doing it and kind of breaking it down to like a, I guess you could say a less proper way of doing it, but I think it's going to be a lot more specific to like what we're trying to do, the way that I'm going to change this now. And it's just going to be a bit more descriptive, like, because right now it's just like token 1 points, token 2 points, token 3 points, token 4 points. And then you'd have to actually check, well, what is token 1? What is token 2? But I want to just like label these a little bit more clearly and not do it quite as like systematically as this. So instead of using a data structure for each token, let's just hard code the names of the tokens. So for the, well, let's just give it the actual names of the tokens. The tokens we are going to use are book. Actually, I'm just going to grab the addresses just so it has it. So I'm just going to use my web browser real quick to grab those addresses. I'll just say BSC like that, and I'll say blue. I'm just going to open up the blue docs where I can grab all 3 blue token addresses. In the future, you'll see what I'm doing here, but just I don't want to keep switching my screens back and forth. BSC, so that's blue. And we'll say S blue. And I'll grab that address. And then let's say G blue. I don't really have to keep writing BSC there, but just to make sure it doesn't get confused. Okay. So now that we have all the token addresses, so I'm just going to tell it. So for example, the point breakdown should be something like book points or book balance points, blue balance points, G blue balance points, etc. Okay, what else do we need to tell it? I think that's probably about it. We will hard code a multiplier since we need to assign higher points for certain balances. To start, let's I'm just trying to think roughly how many times book goes into the blue price. So about 1,000 times, I think, roughly. To start, let's give all blue tokens 1000x multiplier. Book will be the baseline with a 1x. Yeah, that's good. So let's see what this comes up with. So we're going to keep building today until this thing is live and we're able to actually use this. So we're going to deploy this. We'll deploy the contract to BSC. We'll deploy the front end. I'll show you guys how to do all that stuff. And yeah, we'll have you guys voting. Okay, so let's see what this is doing. Deploying voting system contract. Okay. Console log is not something I usually use in Solidity, but I can see it's bringing in the hard hat console, so we're able to do that, but it's not typically the way that I troubleshoot things. Just take a quick look at this, calculate user points. So you can see it renamed all the stuff for me. So it's not like token 1 points, token 2 points, token 3 points. It's actually using the name of the tokens, which is what I wanted. Just reading through this to see what it did. It's kind of a weird way of doing this. Okay. Well, like I said, we're not going to be touching any of the code ourselves. So, so one thing about this is we can't really test this on like our local environment just because this kind of relies on other contracts. So we'll have to deploy this right to BSC. But okay. I mean, it's cheap enough for gas. We could just keep deploying stuff for fun. But okay. So let's see if that compiles. I don't know why that's going crazy. I think something to do with StreamYard here. Okay, so that compiled successfully. So let's think of what else we gotta. Can you explain more about the 1000x multiplier versus the 1x? Yeah, so I was just looking at like, that's a great question. I should have explained that. So I was just looking at like basically the price of the tokens. So like blue is roughly 1,000 times more expensive than book. So basically just to make the points like roughly the same, like dollar wise. That's why I did the 1,000 multiplier. So, I mean, and really the way I did it, it's not too proper because we should have, because really G blue should have like half the multiplier of S blue and blue. I mean, and really the proper way to do that would actually be to check the G blue index to say, okay, well, right now the G blue index is 2.0, which means that like G blue should have like, basically twice the value of S blue and blue. So, I mean, we can tweak those things after. But yeah, that's the reason why I did the multiplier, just because of the value of the tokens. So I'm just going to actually tell it now that because we rely on other deployed contracts, we won't be testing this locally. We will just deploy to BSC mainnet for testing. I mean, there are ways that you could do this without having to deploy to BSC mainnet, but just because gas is so cheap, there's, just to make things easier, we'll just go straight for production. We will just deploy to BSC mainnet. I'll just say it like that. Update our hard hat config and our Next.js project to be set up properly for BSC mainnet. So something else that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to check troves. So I guess we'll build that in next before we start deploying anything. So I'll show you guys how I'm going to do that. So one thing that we can do is, I'm trying to think of the easiest way to do that. I'm trying to do things in a way where you guys could copy this kind of if you're trying to do things on your own. So I'm going to try to stay away from doing things that would be too difficult to replicate. But let's switch over to my web browser for a sec. So let's take a look at book. I'm just going to go to the holders. I'm just going to show you like a really quick way that I would look this up. from where I can start with contract writing. I mean, I've already kind of showed that part. If you want to just rewind a bit on the stream, like I showed, like there's a lot of different ways you could do it. Like you could literally just start with like an empty directory and say to AI, say, hey, set up a new hard hat project for me and build a contract that does X, Y, Z. That would work. I use Scaffold ETH too, so I'll actually post the link to that in the chat if anybody wants to follow along there. So basically what I did is I set up a new project with Scaffold ETH too. And then from there, I started AI and I basically said, you know, what I wanted to do. So I want to learn. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole purpose of these streams. You know, learn how to build with AI. And, you know, we're going to have all this available on YouTube afterwards. So you can feel free to rewind the live stream or just watch it back afterwards. So what I was doing here is I was just quickly going to find the contract address where basically we're going to interact with the troves. So there's a couple different ways to do this, but so the two things that we basically, sorry, we actually need to go here. So what we're looking at now is, oh wait, I'm not even in the right contract. I believe it's this guy. Yeah, 51 million. So that'd be helpful to pick the right contract first. Okay, here we are. So now what we need is, is this the right place where we can get this? I might need to double check that, but Trove Manager, this is probably where we need to do that. Let me take a look at that. So actually, this is something that we could use AI for. Actually, that'd be a fun thing to do. So let's make a new chat and say, for our Liquidity V1 fork, which contract do we use to check the Trove status of a user? We want to determine the amount of tokens a particular wallet address has deposited as collateral. So, I mean, I'm going to try and do as much as I can with AI instead of like looking up stuff traditionally. So this is this should give us our exact answer of what we need. There we go. So using the Trove Manager, which is what I had open right here. Or not there. What I'd open here. So get Trove collateral. So there, we could use that. So let's make sure this compiles. Okay, so now we got the information that we need there. And let's switch back over to the editor. All right, cool. So now what we're going to want to do is I'm going to, oh, actually, I guess I should. Okay, actually, I got to switch back to my browser. It's going to be a bit of a pain. But, right there. So what I'm going to do, so what I'm in right now is this is the Trove Manager contract. So this is the contract that we need to access to see, to basically see the balances. So we need to grab, there's a couple different ways you can get this, but I'm just showing you guys the easy way to do it. So this ABI here is basically what we need in order to interact with the contract. We don't need the whole thing, but we're just going to take the whole thing anyways. So now that we got that, let's go back to the editor. So I'm going to just make a new file. Yeah, I'm just going to make a new file on the root called, we'll call this Trove Manager. .ts, sure. And let's just put in address, and we'll put the address there in a sec. And let's put ABI. So ABI is like basically, actually, oops. Why doesn't that work? Usually I get like AI to do this for me, or I grab it from somewhere else. But actually, you know, let's just do this a little bit simpler. I'll just call that JSON. There we go. Okay, so now we have like the instructions of how to interact with the Trove Manager right there. So now we can just tell AI about that. So basically, I'm just going to take a little bit of this info. So I'm going to say as a fifth thing, we want to check points for. We want to check the Trove Manager contract of one of our ecosystem projects. The ABI to work with this contract can be found in trovemanager.json, and the address on BSC is this. We will call I'm just going to go back to my chat, get Trove collateral. I'm just going to copy that in. I know you guys can't see that, but I'm not going to switch just to copy that. We will call the get Trove call function with the user's address to get their book token balance that they have deposited. This, wait, did I just realize something? Oh, so I actually did this the opposite way. The book should have the 1000x and the blue should be 1x, but that's okay. I'll fix that after. This will return the amount of book tokens, and we will give the same points as we are giving for book. So I didn't really want to tell it two different things in one prompt, because I do want to. We have to fix this, because basically, like, it's book that you need basically. Or no, sorry. What am I talking about? This does make sense the way I have it right now, because yeah. Sorry, guys. Because blue is 1,000 times more expensive than book, so that makes sense. So based on, like, you need to have like 1,000 book to be worth 1 blue in terms of points. So yeah, that is accurate. So let's see what it's doing now. Trove book multiplier 1, same as book, 1x baseline. That's good. So okay. So let's see if this is getting this right. So here's where we're checking all the balances. So we're checking the balance of book, checking the balance of blue, balance of S blue, balance of G blue, and the Trove Manager. We're doing Trove Manager. I never do things like this, but let's just go with it, just because that's how AI is doing it. Trove book balance is Trove collateral. Trove book points is this times the multiplier. Total points. Yeah, it looks good to me. So, and you can see, like, this automatically built in this new this iTrove Manager that has, like, this is the function that we have to call to get the collateral for the user. So basically it did this simple interface instead of like bringing in every single possible function, because we don't really need those other functions. So that was perfect. And now we got the Trove Manager here, and that all looks good. So I think one other thing that we want to do is we're going to want to get the G blue index. And I think that's going to be it for like what we're integrating. So actually, just to keep this simple, let's just maybe leave that out for now. All right, so this should be good to go to test. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So this should be able to. So we should be able to call calculate user points, give it an address, and then it's going to basically check our points and give like a total points based on the balances of all these different tokens. And again, I would have done this a little bit differently personally if I was doing this myself, but it's close enough. So yeah. All right. So now let's do a little bit of work on the front end now. So I'm just thinking if I want it. So actually what I'm going to do real quick is I'm just going to let this actually update the claude.md file now that it like knows a lot more about what we're actually building. I'm just going to let it do this just so it has better context for the future. So that's a big thing with like AI coding is you need to make sure that the AI has the context that you need. You don't want to really carry on a super long conversation. In fact, like I've had the best results by clearing the conversation and starting a new conversation really as often as possible. But the only way that works is if your new conversation has the information that it needs in order to be able to do whatever the next task is that you want to do. So, for example, I told the AI so many different requirements already in this conversation. So if I were to just clear this conversation, other than looking at the code that it's already written, it's not going to have any of that history of this conversation. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of address that. And one of them is, this is not really the best way to do it, what I just did, but it's one of the ways that you can do that. So it's going to basically update my Claude file with some of the new information and some of the stuff that we've just done. That way I'll be able to clear the chat and then we can start working on another task. So you can see here, it's replacing like a bunch of the generic stuff that I had with, it's talking about BSC now. It's talking about, it knows about our tokens and the multipliers and the functions, right? So like this is all stuff that this did not know about before. So with all of this information now it's, I can basically safely clear this. And now we can just keep talking about something else and it's going to have a lot of that background info. So let's tell it to start working on the front end. So say, now let's change our front end to facilitate, to allow users to connect their wallets and have it automatically show their points for each category and a total of all points. We will build in the voting abilities afterwards. For now, let's just show users their total points. It's cooking. So I'll help you build a front end that shows users their voting points after connecting their wallet. Let me start by exploring the current code base structure and then plan the implementation. So we haven't done much with, actually, I'm already running a demo front end on from another project. Let me just close that real quick. Okay. So basically what this is going to be doing now is it's going to, instead of working in the hard hat package, which is our smart contract stuff. Okay, so it needs to deploy first. So we didn't set up any wallet to be able to deploy. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. And I'm going to create a new wallet for that, just because that's there's a good built-in way to do that. So this should fail. Let's let it fail. Yeah. But did it fail? Oops. So there was an error in the hard hat config. So let's let it fix that. But again, I didn't set up any wallets yet, so this should fail. There are certain things that you don't really want to do with AI and stuff like related to like private keys. You probably don't want to be doing with AI. So I'm just going to do that in another console. So it's finding a bunch of like TypeScript errors right now in like the hard hat config. So I'm just letting it fix that first. Oh, I got a visitor. Oh, oops, cat's sitting on my mouse. Okay, so you can see here, you don't have a deployer account, run yarn generate or yarn account import first. So let's actually do that. So I'm just going to open up another terminal here, and let's just do exactly what it said. Yarn generate. So I got to put a password here. So, all right, so we got a new wallet here. So I'm just going to send a tiny bit of BNB there real quick. So it's the way that I did this is actually safe to do this on stream, because the private key for this is actually not stored in plain text. It's stored like kind of like encrypted. So even if I showed you guys where it says that it saved my private key, you wouldn't be able to do anything with it. You need to like have that in combination with the password that I just put in. So let's send a little bit of BNB to that address. Okay. All right. So now that we have that, grab the cat, put that in. All right. So I'll just tell it I have set up a deployer account and I have funded it with some BNB. Let's redeploy to BSC. Just going to go top up my coffee while that runs. Oh, I forgot that I got to put the... Okay, so I forgot that I have to put in the password for this to work, so I can't really run that directly with AI. So let's just deploy this without AI, and then we'll get right back to the AI right after. Because now it's asking me for the password. This is the same one that I just set up a second ago. All right, so we've got that deployed. And so the other cool thing is that you'll see right here at the bottom, there's something that, because I'm using Scaffold E2, like this is one of the biggest advantages of that, is that you can see it says updated TypeScript contract definition file. So basically what this means is that now that we've deployed this, we can start working in the front end, and the front end knows exactly how this works. And I'll show you something pretty cool actually. So again, I'm still not coding with AI, but I'm just going to actually start the project so that we can look at the front end. So let me open this up. I'm going to switch to my browser so you guys can see what I'm doing. So basically what I did is I just started up the front end. So this is what we're going to be working in. Actually, this is something that I could probably put in my code editor just to make it so I don't have to keep switching. So this is probably going to look familiar to some of you guys because this is like a very common starting point that I use for a lot of projects. So right now it's not doing anything. It's saying wrong network. Let's switch to BNB. So you can see like just out of the box, actually the blue whale on the stream is kind of blocking it, but you can see that it already has like, it already says book bnb.eth. It has my little icon there for my wallet. This stuff that all works right out of the box. Actually, you can see it right in the middle too. So this is one of the cool things about this is I can go debug contracts now, and this is updated automatically every time that we make any change, right? So you can see we have our voting system contract here. Here's all the different stuff that it built into it. And let's basically grab well, let me just grab the actual Actually, so let's grab the address of my wallet that's connected right now, and let's see get user point breakdown. Let's see what happens there. Okay, so something's not working right because it's giving me 0 points for everything. So that's not proper. Let's see. Yeah, it's just showing zeros for everything. Okay, there we go. Get current user points. Okay, so total points. So I've got 979,000 points, and now it's giving you a breakdown of everything. So it's giving you like the book balance points, the S Blue balance points, the G Blue. Yeah, that actually looks like it's working quite well. Now, I'd have to check why this is showing 0, but the actual get current user points breakdown is working quite well. So, yeah, awesome. So let's go back to our AI. And where do we leave off? I think last we did is we told it to deploy and to start working on the front end. Oh yeah, so I wanted it to start working on the front end, but it had to actually deploy to have like all the information about, what our contract looks like. So let's just clear this and get it to start again. All right, so our contract has been deployed to BSC. Now we need to build the dashboard to show users their point breakdown and total points for all categories. Later, we will build in the ability to vote on different ideas. Let's leave that part out because we didn't even do anything related to that in the contract yet. So I don't want to really confuse it and tell it anything about that in the front end part. So it looks like it's creating a dashboard page. Oh, I forgot to switch back to screens. I knew that was going to happen at some point. So basically, this is the prompt that I just gave it. Our contract has been deployed to BSC. Now we need to build the dashboard to show users their point breakdown and total points for all categories. So what I was just showing you guys was like the debug, the built-in debug stuff that's on the front end. But we're going to actually just build that into like the actual homepage, because obviously we want our users to just be able to just visit the site and see their point balances. So once it does this, what I'll do is I'll actually just deploy this so that you guys can even like visit it and try it out while, before we even finish building it. So we're just letting this build. Okay, so now it's trying to start the development server, but I'm already running the development server over here. So I'm actually going to tell it not to. So basically, I'm going to press escape to tell it not to do this, because otherwise it would just be running 2 development servers, which doesn't make any sense. So I'm just going to actually add a memo. So basically, like when I wanted to remember something throughout like everything that we're doing, I want to basically add something to the Claude file. So I could actually just edit this and type it in, but because we're using AI for everything, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say, there's actually a lot of ways to do this. If I put a pound sign here, it's like you could directly add a memory. But there's another way to do it. I could just say, add to the Claude MD file that AI should never start the dev server. I will always be running the dev server myself. So that's just going to add a little note to the Claude file just to not start the dev server. Again, there's like 5 different ways to do that, but that's just probably the easiest way is just to type it in. So I actually see on my other screen like what it came up with, and I'll show you guys here real quick. Definitely got to find a better system here because stopping my share and starting it again constantly is a bit annoying. But so this is what we got. So it's definitely got some problems, but overall it's working. So the problem that it has right now is it's not factoring in the decimals. So basically in crypto, because there's no like there's no floating point numbers. There's no like numbers with decimals. Like everything is just like a big regular number, like an integer. So we have to just actually get this to divide this by like 18 decimals. So my total points should be like 979,000, not this massive number. So I'm going to get that to fix that in a second. Actually, let's just do that right now. Actually, I got an idea. I think there's a way that I can open up a browser inside of my editor. That way I don't have to keep switching. Let me check. Okay, this looks good. Let's see if I can. There we go. Nice. So now we can see everything as it works. So, although it's not going to have my wallet connected. Yeah. Well, that doesn't help too much. Okay. So I forgot. So because we're doing Web3 stuff, a couple things are a bit more not quite as easy to work on, just because we have to connect our wallet to see how it's doing. But okay, let's just get it to fix that problem. So say dashboard looks great. It is showing the full numbers though. All balances and input we are taking in has 18 decimals. So we should factor in the 18 decimals when showing users their balances and amount of points. So this is gonna make the numbers a little bit more human friendly. So let's think about what we still need to build while this is going. So we need to build a way for basically for me to be able to put in a bunch of different options that people can vote on. And then we need to put in a way for people to be able to connect their wallet and basically see a list of the options and then vote for one of those options. That's pretty much all that we got left to do. So just because this is not super useful for us because the wallet's not connected, I'm just going to close that. And let's share my other screen again. Much better. Okay, so that's a pretty basic system that can pretty much give a breakdown of points based on balances of tokens and balances of other contracts. So does anybody have any questions about that so far? So basically, I just told AI, I said, hey, I want to give users points based on balances of different tokens. And not only that, I also have another contract where we can just call one function to basically check a user's collateral amount. And that's basically, we're going to use that for points as well. Oh, we got a nice question coming in. How do you stop users from voting twice, or do they have a total number of voting power they can use in one go? So we'll get into that when we start building the voting, but the way that I envision that working is we'll just like track votes. So the first vote, like vote number 1, if a user's wallet votes, the system's going to know that that user already voted. So it's not going to let them vote again on that same vote, right? So like when there's another vote in the future, it'll basically let everybody vote again based on their current voting power at that time. But yeah, like once you've voted once in a current vote, then you're not going to be able to vote again for that particular voting option, if that makes sense. So let's actually switch up and let's get back into that now, into the voting. Because I mean, this is not perfect. A couple of small things I would change here is the G blue is not. Basically, like your G blue should give you like twice the voting power roughly, just because like the G blue index. But I don't want to go into like every nuance, or else we're gonna be here for a while. So I think this is a pretty good starting point for the actual point system. And we can update this in the future. Again, the gas is so cheap on BSC that if we have to deploy a new one in the future, it's not a big deal at all. So let's switch back to the editor again. Okay, so that all looks great. So let's just clear this, and we want to go back into the smart contract dev now. So let's see. All right, our system works well for determining points for any user. Now we need to build in the voting system. This has two parts. We need to have the ability for the owner for the contract owner. Nick reposted the stream. I don't know if that's an automated message or not. That's pretty cool. This has two parts. We need to have the ability for the contract owner to add a new vote with let's keep this simple. Let's make it so that every vote has like the same amount of options. Add a new vote with up to 3 different options. Well, let's say 5. Up to 5 different options. End a vote. Yeah. Let me just actually put a bit more details in here. We don't need to dynamically add new voting options. The options should all be specified when the vote is created by the admin. End a vote. This finalizes the vote. Okay. And the other part of this is users should be able to see the options. Actually, let's not give it too much to do at once. Let's build in the admin side first, where we can create new votes and end a current ongoing vote. We will build the user interaction after. So I didn't really see, I'm assuming that this built in like an admin. Yep. Okay. So basically, like so what I just checked here is like the constructor is what gets called when basically when like you deploy the contract. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to tell it to update the deploy script to put like one of my addresses in here, so that basically my address is going to be the owner of the contract, which is what it's going to check when it's basically like allowing someone to create a vote or to end a vote. Okay, cool. So it made vote storage a vote. So vote is going to have an ID, a title, a description. It's going to have a bunch of options. Okay, that looks good to me. And let's see what it built in for the create vote. Title, description, options, duration. Do we need a duration? So I'm going to get it to remove the duration. We're just going to have the vote run until basically until the admin cancels it. So it's updating some tests. I'm not going to really do the tests, so I just stopped it there. So let's say the votes will always be about what we are going to build next. speaking of this, let's actually like get this going at the end of the stream. So if you guys want to start thinking of ideas for what we want to build next, then I can actually create the first vote before the stream's over. The votes will always be about what we are going to build next stream. We don't need a title and description for each vote. We just need up to 5 options, which will be a short text description of what we can build. Also, remove the duration field. We will manually end the votes when we begin building the winning idea. So it's getting rid of the title and description like I asked, because I mean, if we're always just voting on what we're going to be building next, then we don't really need to give a title to that. So now it's going to make a bunch of updates there. So what I'm thinking we'll build next is like a cool like voting page where you can scroll between like the current vote and like maybe prior votes just to see the results of them, and then the ability to vote on the current vote. And so something else I'm going to do is I'm going to paste in an address that I want it to use for the owner of the contract. And then it's going to update the deploy script. So right now we have a deploy script here, and it's deploying this. The only thing it needs to know to deploy it is like who the owner is going to be. So right now it's using the deployer, which is like that address that I just created. But I'm going to switch that up but again, I'm not going to do any coding myself. We're going to have AI do everything. So I'm just going to tell it, update our deploy script to use this wallet address as the owner. So, I mean, I could have used that same deployer that it was using, but then I have to like bring that into MetaMask and it'd be a bit of a pain. So it's just easier for me I'm going to continue to use that account that I created to deploy this contract, but I'm just telling it to set the owner of the contract to an address that I just have easy access to in MetaMask. So that's just going to make things easier for everything. So let's see, that should be done in a second. All right, cool. So let's now, so again, because of the way that I set up the deployer, I have to put in a password every time I use it. So I can't use AI directly to run this. So I'm just going to have to run this over here. So I'll just open a new tab and we will deploy that. And the reason that I'm deploying again, even though we're not done, is just we should ideally be doing all this on like a test net or a local chain and without like working on the actual, BSC mainnet, but it's just a lot easier because we're interacting with other contracts and because gas is so cheap, this is just a super easy way to do it. So even though this contract's not done, I do keep deploying it to mainnet. Again, not really best practices there, but I guess I'm trying to show you guys like the easiest way to do stuff, and for how cheap gas is on BSC, it's pretty easy to do it this way. So, all right, so that's deployed. Now we can basically, I'm going to clear this and say, let's go in and build the admin ability to create a new vote. So and then we'll make sure that's all working. Let's make an admin page on our front end to be able to manage votes. this will need to have the ability to create a new vote with up to 5 options, and also to end an existing vote. This page does not need to be in the menu since it will be admin only. Yeah, that looks good to me. So we'll get the admin page going, then I'll test creating a vote. And then if that all works well, then what we'll do next is we'll build in the ability for users to be able to actually vote on stuff. And I mean, I'm going to need some ideas. I've already got my own ideas, but ideally I'd love to get some community ideas of what we can build next. Although we can use AI to come up with some ideas, or I can share some of the ideas I've already got. So it's made that admin page for me. Okay, so I'm just looking at it in my other screen, and actually it looks quite good. That's pretty neat. Okay. So just so I can show you guys what it looks like, I'm going to just actually get it to build the next part. And actually, no, we can do this. So I'm just going to show you what it built for me. It's pretty cool. So it just made me a super simple admin page here, and you can just see admin address. That is the same wallet that I'm connected with. And you can see there's no current vote, and I just have an option here to create a new vote. So I can say build X, build Y. Now I can create the vote. I can add another option, build Z, and that's all working. So I'm not going to submit that, but that looks pretty good to me. So the next important thing for us to build is the ability to vote. So let's maybe clear this. Again, the reason I keep clearing is because I want to keep starting with a fresh conversation, just because you're going to get better quality results if you don't have like a super long history of, kind of unrelated stuff. So, so now we want the voting system. So now we want to say, now we need to build into our contract the ability for users to vote on any currently active votes. Users should only be able to vote once, and their voting power should be calculated at the time that they are voting. That's pretty much it. There should be a way to see the results of all previous votes, just in terms of how many voters voted for each option, and the total voting power that was used to vote for that option. That looks pretty good to me. So basically, like just like the last couple of things we implemented, we're gonna have to build this into the contract first, and then after we build this into the contract, then we'll update the front end to be able to interact with it. Then we should be pretty much good to go. Then I'll push it live so you guys could all check it out on your own browsers. And this is something that we can build on this in the future. We can add more features. We can tweak the point system. There's a lot of different ways we can improve this. Now, something else that we had the option of doing is we could have made an upgradable smart contract. Basically, with an upgradable smart contract, that would have allowed us to like change the logic, to change how points work, to change anything for the most part, and then keep the same contract address and keep all the same data that's already in there. But I figure for this, like this is something where if we make changes to it in the future, we could just redeploy it and we can just scrap the old one. It's not like this is not holding any funds, it's not holding any assets. It's like it's a very simple contract that's just checking stats from other contracts essentially. So because of that, we're not going to really lose much if we redeploy this in the future. Like we'll lose all the old vote info, but that's not really a big deal. So I figured it's not really worth, I'm sure we'll build upgradable smart contracts in the future on a future stream, but for this in particular, I didn't want to make it too complicated. So. All right, so it looks like that was done. Let's take a quick look at what it's maybe built in there. Vote results. Okay, well, you know what? Most people aren't going to know how to like really look into this. Let's just keep going and just assume that it did a good job. So now I'm going to actually do this in the same conversation just so it has that history of what we just built. I've only given it one prompt in this like segment. So let's build into the front end on the home page the ability for actually build a voting page to allow users to see the current vote available, to vote on one of the options if they haven't voted yet, and if they have voting power, users with no voting power should not be able to vote. Looks good to me. There should also be a way to scroll to review previous votes. So let's say, by default, we should show. So one thing that you guys are going to notice is that like sometimes I might go into a little bit more detail than what you guys might think is necessary. And the reason why I'm doing that is like, if I like type the beginning of a prompt and I think, okay, this is probably enough so it can build what I want it to build. If I just think in my mind, like, okay, well, there's two different ways it could go with something. Like I want to just give it a little bit more detail to know that, so it knows like exactly what I'm looking for. So like, that's kind of like the extra clarity that I'm giving right now. So it's like, so by default, we should show the current vote and then have the ability to check older votes if there are any. And that probably wasn't too necessary to add that extra bit in, but it's not going to hurt. I'm just going to run to the washroom quick while that's building. I'll be back in a sec. Oh, wow, it's still going. All right, it just finished. So let's let it check some types. Oops. So it found a bunch of TypeScript errors. I'm just going to let it go ahead and fix that. Oh, you know what? We probably have to deploy that before, because we didn't deploy those latest changes. So now the front end's trying to access things that don't exist. Yeah, I really should have deployed that before I let it start fixing all those problems. But, on the fence if I should cancel this right now and just deploy it, but let's let it keep going. Okay, now I'm just going to actually stop it and I'm just going to deploy it again. So now it's going to ask me to put in that same password that I set up when I made this wallet. Let me do that. Oops. Oh, so it wasn't able to deploy. There was a problem with it. Oh, did I actually run out of gas? No way. So there's a way, let me just see real quick. There's a way to see like the status of my account. Yarn account. See if what kind of BNB I got left in there still. Don't tell me it's gonna tell me every balance except for BSC. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah, so it looks like this is actually, so I think my hard hat settings are not optimal because it really shouldn't be using that much gas to deploy, but whatever. I'll just send a bit more gas there. So I did actually run out of gas. This is why you don't really test stuff on mainnet, but whatever. So I think if my gas settings were set up properly in hard hat, it would be using way less gas to deploy this stuff, but it's fine. All right, so let's go ahead and deploy that again. All right, so now that we did that, once again, it generated a new TypeScript contract definition. So now that we're basically good to go. So, all right, I mean, let's just do something really basic. Let's just ask it if we're ready to go. Can you review our smart contract and front end to see if anything else needs to be completed so we can begin to use this basic voting system? I expect to be able to create a new vote with a couple with 2 to 5 options, and then have users able to visit the site, connect their wallet, and then vote on one of the options in the active vote. We should be able to easily see the status of the current vote. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So let's just see if where we stand and if we're just about ready to go. I mean, definitely we should clean up the site a little bit. It looks very default for Scaffold ETH2, but I mean, function wise, it looks like it's pretty good. So it wants to compile. Okay. So this is a great time for you guys to drop some ideas in terms of what you guys want to build next. Or I mean, or actually, I guess what we could do is in our next stream we could use AI to come up with ideas. Or if you guys want to do that at the end of this stream, we could do that too. Let me know what you guys want. So I guess the options are we could come up with ideas in Telegram, and I can create a vote with that, or we can talk about ideas and how to come up with ideas on the next stream, or we could do that pretty much right now if you guys want. All right, so let's see what this said. So basically, I didn't ask it to do any coding. I just said, hey, like, is everything done that we need? And let's just see what it says. Your basic voting system's complete, ready to use. Here's what's been implemented. So vote creation, vote casting, vote management, voting power, results tracking, security. Okay, looks pretty good. Front-end components, voting page, admin page. Okay, and admin creates a vote, users connect wallet. Okay. Voting power validation, users without tokens cannot vote, 1 vote per user enforcement. I mean, it looks pretty good to me. So we don't have to be too careful about security just because there's no like tokens involved in this. Like it's just checking balances. So it's not handling like any tokens, like users aren't sending tokens to it or anything like that. So there's really nothing security wise to worry about. It's like a worst case scenario here is like it just doesn't work properly, but nobody loses money if that's the case. So it's really not a problem. So have we deployed the latest one? I forget. I think we did. So let's I guess give it a try. Let me switch my screen over. John says, I think if we could come up with ideas in Telegram, also give the community some time if they were not able to visit this stream. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be doing these streams like nonstop. So, I mean, if somebody misses the first voting session, that's not going to be the end of the world. But yeah, but at the same time, I don't want to make a new vote if I don't have any, ideas. So yeah, maybe we do use Telegram to come up with some ideas, and I can get you guys to help keep track of the top ideas, and we can make a vote. So let's try this out. So this is our site. So this homepage is not changed. This is exactly how it came when we first installed this. But now we have a dashboard, and we have voting page, and we have an admin page. So let's try this out. So let's make a couple of voting options. So just for testing, we had somebody mention a prediction market. What else do we have? Let's say like a zapping tool. Let's say a token launcher, let's say. So let's see if this works. So I'm using the admin wallet to try to create a new vote or create a new voting option. Let's check that out. All right, looks like that worked. Okay, so we got some problems here. We got the voting power is not showing properly with the decimals. But other than that, it looks pretty good. This actually looks pretty awesome. Pretty happy with that. So so we're going to fix this in a second, the voting power, how it shows, but oh, that's that wasn't from me actually voting. That was like a super delayed response from the admin page. But let's say I'm going to vote for a token launcher. Not sure why this is taking so long to submit. Okay, cool. So it looks like the percentages aren't showing properly, but it is properly showing that I've already voted. Yeah, I mean, this is working pretty good. Overall, quite happy with that. So let's switch back over to the editor and tweak a couple things. So let's just clear this and say on our voting page, all voting power calculations are showing in the full number format. We need to show numbers properly with the 18 decimals factored in for a better user experience. What else did we need to change? I think that was about it. Also, the percentage bars to show existing votes isn't very clear. Make it more obvious with the voting percentages bar, the voting percentage bar, how much each option has received. All right. So I think we're just about done with this one. Let's just clean that up a little bit, and then we're gonna have to figure out some. Yeah, this is actually, I'm pretty happy with how this came out. I mean, the front end is not beautiful by any means, but it's very functional. Yeah, I think for our first build session, this has been pretty successful. I think next time what I'm going to do is I'm going to have like I'll bring a different screen here, because like right now I have like a super wide screen, so it's not really possible for me to share my whole screen. But if I have a separate, like a normal size screen, I can just share that whole screen, and that way I can just switch what I'm showing you guys without having to constantly mess with like the stream software. That should make it a lot more seamless. Okay, that looks a lot better. Let me just show you guys the update there. I literally have to like start and stop my screen share every time I want to show you guys something. But so now you can see my voting power. It looks a lot nicer. It's showing that's 979,000. Now you can see that the 100% looks a lot more obvious. You can see one vote, 100% with zero power for the top two votes. Yeah, overall that looks much, much better. And I'll show you guys the admin interface. So look how cool this is, right? This I didn't change anything here. I just actually created a new vote here. So now it's letting me end the current vote, and it's telling me I can't make a new vote until I've ended this one. So are you sure you want to end the current vote? So let's just end that. But yeah, that all looks really good. So let's just do a little bit of cleanup here, and then I think we're going to be good to go. Let's go back to my editor. This is going to be an interesting one. I want you to make our Next.js front end beautiful. Our current homepage can be removed, and the default page should be the dashboard that we created. Update the scaffold ETH2 branding to, let's call it Blue Book Voting. How's that sound for a project name? So rebrand from the default to our new naming, which is Blue Book Voting, and update the design to be visually appealing and modern looking. I want to have our front end not look like the default scaffold ETH2 look, and something unique and beautiful. Let's see what we get. This one might take a while, but I've usually had pretty good luck with stuff like this. So let's see what it comes up with. And again, let's actually open that simple browser that I just learned how to do. Simple browser show. And I'm just going to open up what I know our local address is, localhost 3000. I'm just doing this just so I can show you guys without having to switch my screen. But so what you guys see here is like the super like basic, like this is exactly what Scaffold ETH2 looks like when you install it. So this is just telling you like how to work with Scaffold ETH2. This is like the default homepage. This is the default header. This is the default footer. And then obviously like we've added our own custom pages here, which you can't really see because, well, the wallet, this is like some temporary wallet. So you can see it already updated our header to show Blue Book voting. I'm sure it still has quite a bit more to go. So it's going to get rid of this page. Or well, it already called that page dashboard, but it didn't actually move in. So it's actually doing that right now, replacing homepage with voting dashboard. So that should be done any second now. And hopefully it completely changes up the style of it, or else I'll give it another prompt if I need to. So anyways, while we're waiting for this to finish, I just want to get some feedback from you guys on, if you enjoyed these. And again, I know that these kind of streams are not going to be for everybody in the community, but I think there's some people in the community that are going to really enjoy these streams and enjoy having like input on what we're going to be building for the projects. And, not only what we're going to be building, but like the direction that we take while we're building those things. And, future streams are going to be a lot more focused. This is our very first one. So I'm still getting the feel of it and getting the feel of like, which screens to share and like how to structure the stream. So these are going to be getting better and better every single stream that we do. And we're going to be creating great content for YouTube and X off of these streams. So we're going to get a ton more eyes on the projects, on our content. And overall, it's just going to be, super bullish for both projects and for future utilities for the projects and just growing our communities. So that's my take on it. I just want to know if, how you guys feel and if you guys enjoyed the stream and any suggestions that you guys might have for future streams. I'm definitely all ears. All right. So we got some problems here with showing white text on a white background, but it's not done yet. So we'll let it keep going. But yeah, I mean, that definitely already looks quite different. So pretty happy about that. Oh, so this didn't do that page yet. But this is a pretty intricate prompt. Like we basically said like redesign the whole site. So it's probably gonna take a little while, and it's got to go through the components one by one. So that's cool. We didn't actually see this message yet. You need Book, Blue, Blue G, Blue tokens, or Book deposits and Trove Manager to vote. That's pretty cool. So you can see we have this light mode, dark mode toggle here, which is kind of broken at the moment. So in light mode, it looks proper. It looks like dark text on a light background, but in dark mode, it's showing like light text on a white background, which is not good, but we'll fix that in a second. John says, yeah, I think this has been a very interesting stream. A lot of valuable information. Can't wait for the next build. Good job. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, like I've been doing this like AI coding for quite a while now. So I've learned a lot of the tricks and ins and outs and, how to like build a front end for smart contract. Like we can build things from scratch. We can fork projects and change them. We can like there's no limit to what we can build. And we're going to use AI for 100% of it. So yeah, it's the kind of stuff where like, anyone that follows along, you're going to be able to do all the stuff yourself. So yeah, it's pretty fun and also super informative. So we definitely got a few things that we got to fix here. So we got to fix this. So let's say our front end has a light mode and a dark mode. I used dark mode and noticed that we are showing very light color text on a white background, making it impossible to read. Use proper colors for each mode depending on if light or dark is selected, and make sure the text is a color that is able to be read on top of each background. So, I mean, you guys can see, like, I'm not like doing anything crazy here. I'm just literally explaining in English, like, you know, what I want built, what I want fixed, how I want things to work, to go back and change things. Like, there's been a lot of, you know, this is nothing like super crazy. And like, I think there's a lot more stuff I can show you guys and teach you guys in the future. But this is, I think that, yeah, I think like John said, it was a great start, and, you know, its next build is going to be super fun. I mean, it would probably be useful for us to come up with ideas for the next stream on this stream, so that we can have a long period of voting between streams. Like, we can even do the next stream tomorrow. Okay, that looks good. So the voting page still needs to get updated, but our dashboard's looking nice. Oh, not there. Actually, there's something else pretty cool that I could show you guys in another stream. I learned how to like basically have AI open a browser and check its own work, and basically be able to have like a feedback loop where it can design something and then actually look at it. Because like, that's one of the big disconnects, is like, it basically just wrote me code where there was white text on a white background, and we still have a little bit of that going on. So this is obviously not ideal, but like, AI can't actually look at this to know that that's the problem unless I tell it. But there's actually ways that it can open a browser, look at the results, and then like say, okay, well, that text is not legible, or it can't read it. So it's going to then, like, in its own loop, be able to fix that and then look at it again after, until it's good to go. So like, we're not using that yet, but it's still making great progress, and, you know, it looks like it's going to have a pretty good job done by the time it's done its current prompt. So like one tip that I'll give you guys, like, while we're just waiting for this to finish, is you definitely want to, like, when you're making a prompt, you want to err on the side of giving too much information rather than giving not enough information. Because unless you specifically tell the AI to like ask you for more clarity, it's generally just going to make assumptions, right? So like, if you don't give enough information for it to make the right decisions, it's just going to guess what you want. And oftentimes, I mean, sometimes it might get it right, but oftentimes it's going to be wrong. So you want to just give as much detail as needed in order to make sure it is building what you actually want to be built, and like, it's taking the direction that you want to take. And I think we've had a couple of those things come up in this stream where I just, you know, I kind of had to redirect it the right way. So, I mean, I think our dark and light mode is looking pretty good now. Let's go back to the dashboard. I mean, this is not looking too good up there. What is that homepage it keeps showing? That's pretty weird. So it looks like on the homepage it has like this. Yeah, it's kind of weird why it's doing that. But that's okay. So next I'm going to show you guys how to deploy this so that you know, actual people can visit your sites, and, you know, you can actually be live. So the easiest way to deploy something like this is with a Vercel account. But I already have mine set up, so I'm just going to show you. It's very easy and it's free to set up a Vercel account. But let's actually just get this deployed now, just so I can show you guys. So what I'm using already has like a way to deploy to Vercel already built in. So I can just go like, I can just type yarn Vercel, right? So yarn Vercel. I'm just gonna go prod just so it automatically makes this production. So do I want to set up and deploy this? Yes. Let's deploy this to my own projects. Link to an existing project. Nope. What's your project name? Let's call this, what do we call it? Blue Book voting. Looks good to me. All right, so now this is going to deploy to Vercel, and it's going to be available for people to access it soon. Let's actually just go back and see if our light mode, dark mode fixes worked well. So, I mean, usually I'd actually remove the debug contracts from the menu. But anyways, we're having fun building together, so I can just leave that in there for you guys to play around with. Yeah, this all looks quite good. So this wallet that it's connected here, this is just like a demo wallet. So this has no voting power. So we have vote 1 here. So actually, let's do a quick test. I'm gonna make another vote. Oops. I'm just doing this in my other screen, so I can see there's no active vote. So I'm just gonna say option 1, option 2. So now I want to see how this updates based on me making a new vote on the admin side. Okay, so vote 2 of 2, and you can see there's option 1, option 2. And then if I go to previous vote, I can see the status of this one. Yeah, that's all working great. Looks great. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with this for, like, considering how, we built this from scratch for the most part, and we used AI for 100% of it. I think it's quite good. What do you guys think? So, like, there's a lot of ways this can be improved. I've already talked about a lot of them. Like, for example, the point breakdown to give a different multiplier to GBlue, which could actually be dynamic based on the GBlue index. That'd probably be a good thing to update. We could update that another time if you guys want to dive back into this. I mean, yeah, there's not too many ways I would improve this. It's already quite good. But let's just wait for this to finish deploying. So I'm actually just going to end the current vote and it's taking a while to build. Maybe what we'll do is I'll have you guys in Telegram post some ideas, and I'll create a vote later today based on what you guys show. We've already been live for about 2 hours now, so I don't know. I mean, let me know if you guys want to go over some ideas right now. I can show you guys how I would use AI to come up with ideas, and then we could just directly take those ideas and put them into a vote. Or if you guys would rather do that at the beginning of the next stream, we can definitely do that. So what I think this is going to work, but what I probably should have done here is, like, this might fail if the build fails. So I can try this locally. Like, I can just try to build this right in my environment, and that would basically give me a lot of insight into, like, if this is going to work when we deploy it to Vercel. But I'll give the AI a vote of confidence that it's going to work first shot without testing it. So should get our result pretty soon. Taken a little bit longer than I would have expected to build. Man, this is taking forever. Okay, while we're waiting for that to finish, let's just so everybody can like see everything. I'll actually add the admin page to the header. So let's say add the admin page to our menu in the header, just so you guys can check that out if you want. I mean, you guys aren't going to be able to interact with it, but because you have to be the owner address to do that, but just so you guys can see. Although it's worth noting that those changes are not going to be part of this build. Why is this taking so long? I'm just going to actually open this up in my browser and see what's the holdup. Yeah, it's been going for 6.5 minutes. Should be finished pretty soon, or error pretty soon. All right. Perfect. I've added the admin page to the navigation menu. Great. Cool. All right. Well, you know what? Just for fun, because you guys aren't giving me a ton of feedback on what we should be voting on. Okay, we actually just got the error in the build. Anyway, so I'll leave that alone for now. Let's make a new chat and say, so I'm going to show you guys I'm going to go into this in a lot more detail in another stream, but just for right now, I need ideas. How do I start this? Come up with 5 ideas for new utilities for our existing crypto projects. There are 2 projects that we need to create these new utilities for. One called Blue, token Blue, and another called Book with token Book. The utility ideas will be built live on stream with AI, so they should not be overly complex, but they should involve both projects' tokens. Utilities could potentially use a Blue Book V2 LP token as a way to incorporate both projects into the utility. I can't spell utility for some reason. Come up with a list of 5 cool, fun utilities that would be good candidates to build live on stream with the community. All right, let's see what we come up with. And okay, so basically this failed because the default settings are like super strict that like you can't have like anything wrong at all or else the build fails. So we'll fix that in a second. Here are 5 fun utility ideas for Blue and book tokens that would be great for building live on stream. Dual token lottery pool. Simple lottery system where users can buy tickets using either Blue or book tokens. The prize pool accumulates both tokens. Color book NFT minter. A creative NFT minting platform where users burn small amounts of Blue tokens to unlock color palettes and burn book tokens to unlock pages or templates. Prediction market battle. Look, I didn't even say anything about a prediction market, and it already suggested something here. A simple prediction market where users stake Blue tokens to make predictions and book tokens to create new prediction topics. Token fusion staking vault, a staking mechanism where users can stake Blue and book in different ratios to earn different APY tiers. Daily quest dashboard. Yeah, I'm not really in love with any of these ideas, to be honest, but at least it gave us some stuff that we can input into. Let's see which of these gets some interest. Let's let me go on our local host here. Where did I put that? So I'm going to make a new vote now. That's going to be option 1, option 2. This will be, I mean, if you guys really like any of these ideas, we could build them, but this is going to be more just for testing out the system and just letting you guys like play around with voting. Then we can do like a real vote with like actual community ideas after. I mean, if you guys like these ideas, we could definitely use them. So once I submit this, what I'll do is I'll go back to our code editor and I'll just make sure that I fix the problem so that this can actually deploy. So I think we can go ahead and do that now. Let me switch up. So let's clear this. While trying to deploy to Vercel, there were numerous issues about escaped characters and other minor issues preventing the build from succeeding. Please try the build locally and fix any issues you encounter. And I will redeploy. I will reattempt the deploy to Vercel once the build is succeeding. So just because it might need to build a couple times, I'm just going to tell it to just go ahead and do it anytime it wants to. So basically right now it's going to, oh, it couldn't find a build command. Oh, so it's next build. Okay, so it was smart enough to figure that out. So I was basically checking like which commands are available to it, and I was expecting to see a build here, but there's not one. But that's because like the build is actually specific to Next.js, which is our front end. So it's actually wants to run next build, but this already figured that out itself. So. G Money was part of developing Drip, Drop, Draw. What about an add-on to Blue based on that? I'm not too familiar with how that worked, but I mean, if that's a fun utility that the community wants, is definitely something we can build on stream. Again, like I want the community to really be the ones deciding what we're building. You know, I've got a lot of ideas and I can offer a lot of insight, but at the end of the day, you know, I want the community to come up with the ideas and then the community to vote on what we're building. So, you know, basically whatever the community wants is what we're going to build. And we're going to be building so much stuff. We're going to be doing 2-3 streams a week. So any popular idea, I'm sure will get built. Yeah, and I'm not too worried about the token prices. Guys, just think about this. 2 to 3 times a week, we're making new content. And this is content, you know, this first one, we're still figuring things out, but our future ones are going to be, they're going to get more and more like a well-oiled machine where we're just going to get right into it. We're going to be able to build all kinds of crazy ideas and utilities for both projects. We're going to have all kinds of content on YouTube. So all these guys that are going to be learning about how to build with AI, they're going to stumble upon our videos. They're going to find out about Blue. They're going to find out about Book. So this is going to help both projects from so many different angles. So not only are we building fun new utilities that people are going to want to use, we're going to also get all kinds of new eyes on the projects from all this different content that we're developing. And plus, I mean, it's going to be a fun thing just to interact with the community, you know, many times, right? So, you know, one of the things I was thinking of when I came up with this idea is, you know, I'm thinking like when I invest in a project, I want to look at like, you know, is this team a hardworking team? Is this team a team that's not going to give up? Are they going to keep working until this thing works out? And I'm just trying to think of like, what's the best ways that we can demonstrate that to, you know, not only our current community, but our future potential investors. And I think just like, you know, and also have to figure out something that like I enjoy doing that I don't mind doing a couple times a week. Because like I could tell you guys, hey, I'm going to do X spaces 3 times a day for the next 6 months. But like, to be honest with you guys, I'm not going to do that because I really don't enjoy doing X spaces all the time. So this is a way that I can do something that I enjoy doing where I can be pumped to say, hey, I got a stream coming up where we're going to build with the community. And that's like something that's fun for me. So it's going to be something that's easy for me to be consistent with. So it's just advantages from every single angle. So yeah, really, really looking forward to getting these going on a regular basis. And if you guys are enjoying this, right, like it's like, you know, let me know, give me some feedback, let me know what can be improved, or, you know, if you like the idea, or, you know, any ideas for, you know, for the future, or, you know, if I'm explaining things in a way that's not ideal, let me know so I can try to explain things differently next time. So this is going to be like, it's going to be a work in progress. We're going to keep, you know, we're going to keep improving the efficiency of these streams and like how productive they are in terms of, you know, what we're building, how fast we're building it, how well I'm explaining what we're building, how well I'm explaining like what I'm doing or the inputs that I'm typing, stuff like that. So definitely I think this first stream has been a good taste of it. You know, we went from absolutely nothing to having a fully working voting system. I think that's pretty cool for our first stream, especially because we only spent like maybe half the stream building. So yeah, overall, I'm really excited for this. I hope you guys see, you know, what this is going to really do for the projects. All right, so you can see here, this took a little while, but the end result is excellent. The build has succeeded. The warnings, blah, blah, blah. Perfect. The build now succeeds. Okay, so let's go ahead and redeploy this. This is actually something I could have told the AI to do because there's no special anything I'm doing there, but yeah. And now let's also restart our dev server. And let's refresh this. So one thing I've noticed is that if I'm running the dev server and then I do a build locally, it breaks the dev server. So that's kind of why like I stopped it and restarted it. And the only reason I built locally is just to make sure that when we deploy to Vercel that it's going to actually work. So yeah, that looks pretty good. So now you can see we've got a bunch of options here. So something else I can show you guys next time is like if I wanted to like buy like the like bluebookvoting.com, like how would I actually connect that with this site? So we're not going to have like a proper domain right now, but that's something I can definitely show you guys. And there's no limit to like, you know, everything that I'm doing like as a developer from before I even have an idea coming up with the idea, building it, iterating on the idea, and then even deploying this to production, like following best practices. I'll show you guys every step of the way, right? And I'm sure not everything applies to everybody. Like some of you guys might not care about some aspects of that, but it's going to be great content that we're creating. So I think it's going to be super useful to have all that stuff and be able to make clips out of it and stuff like that. So let's see what's going on here. So this is still building. So it's not ready yet, but I'm going to post the URL for you guys so that you can access this after. So I'm going to share this in the chat here. I'll put it up on the screen too for anybody that wants to see it. So again, this is not going to work yet because I have to wait for the build to finish, but let's go to a new simple browser. Oops. What's going on? Okay. HTTPS. Go on slash that. So again, this is not going to work yet because our deployment didn't finish yet, but this will work soon. And actually, like something fun that we could do. I mean, you guys aren't being too talkative today. Only a couple of you are interacting today. But I mean, if you guys have any suggestions for how to improve this, I can show you how easy it is for me to just give a little bit of input to the AI, and then you'll see like how big of a change it can give us, right? Like again, if we go back to, am I allowed to do this? No. Oh yeah, I can. You can see how big of a difference we got just from me saying, hey, make the UI more modern and beautiful, right? Yeah, it did mess up a couple things with our color schemes, but other than that, I mean, I think it did a great job just, making this look a little bit unique and making it look a lot better. But I mean, if you guys have any suggestions of like, hey, I think this would look better this way, or change the color or anything like that, like, yeah, I can definitely show you guys how to make a prompt to make that happen. Let's see how our build's doing. Still going. Should be done in like 3 minutes. I don't know why this one's taking forever to build. I think it's because of some of the stuff in Scaffold ETH2. It has some extra like stuff like the Daisy UI components, just like the way that it handles certain UI elements. That's like an extra thing it has to build while it's building. Like I'd say like a default Next.js app only takes like a minute or 2 minutes to build, but ours is taking 5 or 6 minutes. But yeah, so once this is deployed in a couple minutes, you guys are going to be able to go to that URL I just posted in the chat, which is bluebook-voting.vercel.app, and you'll be able to see exactly what you're seeing here. And you'll be able to see the vote. So right now we're on vote number 3 because I made a couple of test votes earlier. So on vote 3, you'll be able to actually pick one of these options and vote for it with your voting power. Also, this is, I'm not 100% sure. We didn't thoroughly test this because it's not too important for, if there's something wrong with this, we'll just fix it next stream. So, I mean, I did test it voting myself, but I didn't even really thoroughly look over the code, to be honest. But obviously in the future, when we're building utilities that involve tokens, we're going to be going over it a lot more in detail to make sure that there's no vulnerabilities, there's no issues, everything's secure. But for something like this, where we're just looking at token balances and assigning voting power, it's, worst case scenario, we'll just fix any problems next time. mean, while we're waiting for this to finish, I mean, if you guys have any feedback, I'd love to hear it. Would really love to have these streams be as interactive as possible. It's going to make them more fun and engaging. Although, I mean, we'll be able to create our content either way. So, but yeah, it would be great to get some feedback. What was the issue with the increased gas costs when deploying? So I think what that was is I just didn't have I don't have optimal settings in my hard hat config. So it probably was trying to submit transactions with way too much gas. So basically I ran through the gas way quicker than I should have. Yeah, I mean, look at that, right? So we're using 5 GWE for gas. So I'm basically paying 50 times more to deploy than what I should be paying, right? Because like this should be like this should be like 0.1, right? So basically I was paying 50 times more to deploy than what like the standard gas prices on BSC. So because of that, I sent myself like $15 to a BNB in order to deploy. And we ran through that after just 2 deployments, where usually I should have been able to deploy like 100 times before that would have been a problem. So yeah, that was it. So I guess like AI set this up for me. It set up like this network here, and it just put a way too high of a gas price in here. It's like even if nothing was defined here, the default would have been way better, right? Because like I think before it was like always like 1 or 3, and now it's like 0.1, and we paid 5 for no reason, basically. So because of that, after just 2 deployments, I ran through my BNB that I sent for testing. And okay, it looks like we're almost done building. Yeah, great question there. Thanks for asking that. So, I mean, just to fix it, so I got to stick with what I said. I got to only use AI. So I'll say here, I noticed we are paying 5 GWE on BSC as a hard-coded gas price. The actual gas price we can pay is 0.1 GWE. Either update, well, I should be more specific, but I'll let it choose. Either update this to 0.1 GWE or just remove the hard-coded gas price so it will pick its own gas price on deployment. So basically, like, again, this is why it's good to review things. Like I basically cost myself like $15 for no reason just by not looking at this. Not a big deal. I don't really care, but that is something that, yeah. So it just removed that. I said basically either update it to 0.1 GWE or just remove the fact that it's hard coded. I mean, like when I set this stuff up myself, I don't typically specify the gas price there. There's not usually a big reason to override it. Let's see what it says. Perfect. I've removed the hard-coded gas price from the BSC mainnet config. Now, when deploying to BSC, hard hat will automatically determine the appropriate gas price based on the current network conditions, which should result in much lower gas cost. Okay, so that's good. Thanks for asking that question. That was a good one. All right, so let's take a look and see if our app is deployed. So this is bluebookvoting.vercel.app. Yep, there we go. So this is working now. So you guys can go and vote. So again, the URL is in the chat. And yeah, do you guys have any other suggestions for things that you want to see improved, or do you guys have any other questions about what we built, or any issues accessing it, or anything like that? Let me know. And otherwise, we've been going for about 2.5 hours. I think this is probably a pretty good length stream for us to do in the future. I think we're going to be aiming to do like 2 to 3 streams a week, and anywhere between 1 to 3 hours, somewhere in there, depending on what we're building and the interest in what we're building and how complex it is. You know what I could do actually real quick is I'll just get it to update our claw.md file. So I did a init for the 3rd time now, which is basically just going to get it to update our claw.md file with the latest info. So this is already has a pretty good idea of what what our project's all about. But now that we've built a bunch more stuff into it, it can get into even more details here about what our project's all about. And that way, basically, whenever we do future commands, it's going to have more context, more background information about our project to be able to make better decisions and not have to like examine all the code every single time I ask something. It's going to be able to just know a summary of what's up just from this, Claude.md file. So, because right now this Claude.md file really doesn't say too much about our project. It's more talking about like, it's more talking about just like the scaffold ETH starting point that we had. It's really doesn't have that much at all about our actual project, but that should change once this is done. Looks really good. Yeah, I mean, and this just goes to show like how easy it is to make something that looks good, right? Like I know that before AI, making things look decent, or just making them presentable was always a big challenge for me because I'm not very artistic. I'm not very, that's like probably my worst point of developing is like making a front end that actually looks good and is nice to interact with. But like with AI now, I mean, you just have to say, hey, make me a beautiful looking modern UI and you're good to go pretty much. Yeah, so look at some of the stuff that it's adding, right? It's adding all the information about voting system contract architecture. So it added all the information about our contracts, about our key functions, about the voting functions, some of the data structures. So this is the stuff that's specific to our project that now it's going to have all this information next time we go to give it some inputs. See, it kept our information about, never start the dev server, right? Because like that's just something that bothers me. So like I was just reading a comment there, but so like you see here, I know from experience, right? So this is something like the more that you code with AI, you're going to learn things like this. Like I'm already running the dev server in another tab, right? So that means that like I can go check out what the results look like. Like I can play around with what we're building. But AI, if I didn't tell it to never start the dev server, it's going to try and start this after every single thing I tell it to do. It just, by default, it just wants to start the dev server. So now that it knows right in here, never start the dev server, you'll notice that after I told it that, it never once prompted me to start the dev server because I don't want to run 2 copies of the dev server. I only need 1 and I'm already running 1. So yeah, just stuff like that, right? And some of it comes with experience, but you really don't need experience to do this though. Like if AI is doing anything that you don't want it to do, you just need to set it straight, right? Like it's literally as simple as that. Like I basically just said, hey, update our Claude.md file and just, indicate that I never want you to start the dev server, and problem solved, right? And like any problem that you're experiencing or any annoyance that you're having, a better explained definition of what you want done is going to basically resolve that for you every time, for the most part. I had a question about the prompts you use every time with AI. What are the costs involved and how you keep track of it per project? So there's free versions of everything that I'm using. Like, so for example, instead of using Claude Code, you could use like the cursor and cursor free tier. So this agent mode thing that you see here, you can like download Cursor right now, and you can, all those prompts that I gave the AI, you can do that right here, and it would be identical. I mean, not identical, but it's very, very similar in terms of how it works and everything like that. So really, like, I wouldn't, for anyone that's trying to get into AI coding, I wouldn't worry at all about the costs. Like if you get into it and you start running into limits in the free tiers, that's like, we can have a whole discussion about like which tools I think are worth paying for and which ones aren't. But let me just say that I'm not paying like per prompt for anything that I'm using. So I do have paid Cursor. I think it's like 10 or 20 bucks a month. I do have paid Claude Code. Now I use this quite a bit. So I have one of the higher tiers. So I just don't want to hit limits when I'm in the groove and I'm getting a lot of building done. I don't want to like hit my limits for that time session and like have to wait a couple hours to come back. So I am in a higher tier for Claude Code. I have a couple other tools that I pay for. Like I have a paid ChatGPT account that me and Nick share. Well, we don't share. We each have our own seat in it. I have a couple tools that I pay for. And like, as you get into AI coding, like, I don't think you really need to pay for anything right out of the gate. You can do everything for free. And like I said, like once you start hitting limits and you know which tools that you like, that's when you can decide to start paying for a tool. If you want to try Claude Code without paying monthly, you can sign up. Like, so there's two different ways you can interact with Claude Code. I think I can actually show you. What's the command for it again? I haven't done this one in a while. I think it's login, perhaps. So when you log in, you can, like, so if you have a paid Claude account, which I think the cheapest one is like $20 a month or something. If you have that, then you can connect that with your Claude Code and it will just use your monthly plan. If you don't have a monthly plan, you can just sign up for an API account, which I think they give you $5 to start for free. And then that's gonna actually cost you money every time you type a prompt if you do it that way. But you can try it for free and it's kind of like pay as you go. If you're using it heavily, I would definitely recommend getting onto one of the monthly plans. But yeah, like I said, you can basically everything that I've showed you guys, you can try it out for free and see what you like. Hope that answered your question. All right, guys. Well, I think we are good to go. Let's go see if anybody's voted yet. Let's share my other screen here. So that was just me seeing that the deployment worked. So you see our first one had an error. Our second one took 8 minutes, but it worked. And let's go to our domains and let's take a look. Okay, so this is like some demo. Let's just connect with MetaMask. And there's my voting power. And it looks like nobody has voted yet. So I mean, anybody that has voting power, you should be able to just head over to this URL that I shared. You should be able to see your voting power here. And yeah, then you can just go to voting and pick one of these options. And I'll get things started. I'll vote for this one. And we should be able to see our transaction on the Explorer. And it's using the prop. See, that's the gas price that it should have been using to deploy 0.1. I don't know why this is clearly this transaction is done and that's not showing properly, but we can fix that another time. So, I mean, you guys don't have to worry about your wallets getting exposed or anything. Like you can see I just voted and it's not showing like a history of who voted if you're worried about that. You know, just showing there's only been one vote and yeah. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed our first stream. There's so much more that I can show you guys on future streams, and you know we can build a ton of cool stuff together. So, yeah, if you have any feedback, feel free to drop it into the Telegram, or you know definitely be sure to catch our next stream. I think we can probably do our next stream tomorrow. You know, maybe we'll do a combined stream of our usual stream just to start things off, and then we could jump into a building stream, or maybe we'll do our usual stream tomorrow, then we'll do another building stream on Friday. Let's I'll figure that out sometime before tomorrow. But anyways, we got 67 people watching now. Thanks everyone who joined in. Don't be so shy next time. We only had a couple people chatting this time, but I'd love to have more of you guys interacting. So anyways, again, hope you guys all enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys around the community, and definitely make sure you join in our next building stream. See you guys.